welcome back. This is part 2 of my series on how to get Clerk connected to a Laravel backend. So in part 1, we finished up creating this Recipe Central application for Remix. And in this video, I'm going to go ahead and build our Laravel backend and then show you how you can parse the JWT and use that as your authentication for your backend. So let's get started. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to create a new Laravel application. So we'll just do create project, Laravel, and recipe Laravel, we'll call it that. Change directory, recipe Laravel, and let's open PHP Storm. Okay. So I'm going to go to the config, actually I think it's Bootstrap app, and I'm going to switch this to being API because we're actually only ever going to use API routes here. And then under web.php, if I pick the correct one here, I'm going to create a new route. And for now, it'll just be a get route. And I'm going to say dashboard. And for now, we can just return hello world. Got to remember which programming language I'm using here. We're in PHP land now. All right, so let's head back over to Recipe Central. We're going to run npm run dev. And I'm going to have to update my endpoint that we created here. So if we go to routes, and it's this dashboard. Remember we just put some endpoint. So in my case, actually I don't think I ever, let's go back to recipe Laravel. I want to say herd link because I've got Laravel herd set up. So now I should be able to get there by saying like recipe laravel.test. Okay, it says not found, but that's actually the correct endpoint. So if I said API, it's actually returning HTML, which is a little weird, but this is the right thing. So if I said API and then I hit, I think it was dashboard. There we go. I got hello world. So if we change this to, and I believe, yeah, it's not secure. So recipe laravel.test, and then we'll just say API dashboard. I'm passing in the bearer authorization token, but we're not using it yet. Get our data back, and then I should be able to print it if I do something like, what is it? Use loader data. Type of loader. Okay, so I paused for a second because I was looking up this TypeScript error, and I believe it has something to do with my args up here not having the right type or something. But I'm not too worried about it at the moment. Basically what I wanted to show you is that you can get data out of the back end and show it on the front end. So that's what I'm going to do real quick here. So if I go to dashboard, you can see that we are getting data back, and it contains hello world, which came from our Laravel backend. So we at least have everything wired up here. So next we need to pull in our Clerk keys and things, because we're going to need to make an API call to Clerk. So let's do that real quick. Let's go back to our dashboard. And we're in Recipe Central. I'm going to go to my keys. And it doesn't really matter what you call these keys. I'm just going to publish a global key. Yeah, we'll just copy this. And then I'm going to come over to my Laravel app and paste them into my environment file here. So I'm going to pause it real quick. Okay, and we're back. So basically I just pasted those keys in the environment file, and now I'm back in my config here. So I am going to write a couple of new things here, and it's going to be in a Clerk array. Oops. Need this to be an array. And I'll say private key, app Clerk private key. And I think all I need is the private key for now. There are instances where you might need the public key, but in our case, we're using the private key to access the API in the backend. So just make sure that your environment variable that you created matches this particular key. All right, so let's head back over to the route that we have here. And basically we need to make a, there should be like a backend API thing here. So like Clerk Backend API. And the particular one we're looking for is this JWKS endpoint. And so what this is if you hit this endpoint with your secret key, it will basically give you access to the public key, the public PEM file, which you can use to decode your JWK, or JWT. Man, I'm getting confused here. So you hit this endpoint, it gives you what they call a key set, and then you can use the key set to create your PEM, which you then use to decode your JWT. All of this sounds very confusing. It's really not that bad. So let's do it real quick. So we're going to use the HTTP facade. Ideally, all of this would be in like a middleware or something, and kind of hidden behind a service. But I'm doing it all here just because I think that it's a little bit easier to see it if we have it all in one spot here. So that's why I'm doing this. Authorization, and then bearer. This is where we add in our config, app, Clerk, private key. I like how it basically showed my private key there, but it's fine. I'm gonna flush it later. You guys won't be able to use my private key. Okay, so now we need to download a new package. So a couple packages we need. First is this PHP JWK. So basically, this package allows us to grab the JWK and kind of like turn it into a PEM, which this is what a PEM looks like. Clerk uses asymmetric keys. So there is a private key, and then there's this PEM public key that you use to decode. So we are going to use this particular package to take the JSON key set thing that it sends back from the endpoint, and we're going to use it to create our PEM, which we can then use to decode the JWT. So let's just go ahead and install this one. And then the other package that we need is this Firebase JWT package. I think we should all be done. Yeah, it looks like they're already in there. All right, we got it now. So we got the two packages installed, and then let's use them here. So we'll say key set factory equals new key set factory. There we go. And yep, that's the right one. And then we need to say key set equals key set factory, create from JSON, and we'll just pass in a response. Okay. And then first key equals, there's really only one key, so basically we're just going to say key set get keys and then 0, using data get just so that it doesn't yell at me if it doesn't work. And then we'll say PEM equals new key converter. And then key equals JWT, so that's our Firebase JWT. Decode, we'll pass in our PEM. And our oh wait, no, I need the key first. So this is the, yeah. So I need key, JWT key, yep. I need a new one of these. Okay, so yeah, we need to create the new key, and then so we'll pass in the PEM, and then RS-256. Okay. And this one, need to say key to PEM. First key. There we go. Alright, so now that I have the key, I can do decoded equals JWT decode, and it's going to be key and or token and key. Right? Import this. Check this out. So yeah, I need the JWT here, which I can get from the request. Which I'm not passing it apparently. Okay. And then I can do bearer token, like that. Alright, and then I'm just going to say decoded. I'm just going to pass it back. Prove to you that I did it. Alright, what's wrong with this? Expected parameter type string, pending request provided. I think that's okay. Or no, I need to get, so this is another thing here. I need to get HTTPS and I need to go to api.clerk.com/v1jwks. So we have to actually hit that endpoint, which is something that I hadn't done yet. All right. I think this is everything. So we have our with headers up here. We have our private key here. We're passing this to there. We're hitting this JWKS endpoint. This is going to give us our key set back. So then we instantiate a new key set factory, create a new key set from the response, get the first key, convert it to a PEM, pass the PEM into this key value for JWT with the correct algorithm. This is a asymmetric algorithm. And then run our JWT decode on the bearer token with our key. That should give us our decoded value. So let's see if it worked. I am really not sure if I did everything correct, so I would not be surprised if we get something weird here. Oh no, it worked. Alright, so you can see this is the decoded response that you get. So you can have your session ID, you can have your user ID, and then what's nice about this is that with the user ID you can then save that in your database either as a user record or just use it as your primary key in other models. So like if you have a post model, for instance, you can have the user ID be this string key value. Then when you decode your JWT, you pull it out of there and you can immediately use the value. So it'd be like what? Decoded sub. So you could say post where user ID decoded sub first, something like that. I don't have a post model, but you get the idea. Basically, what I'm saying here is that rather than saving all of this user information directly in your database, you can let Clerk kind of handle that for you. And you can also do other things, especially with this Backend API reference. You can hit your user endpoint and get things like the email addresses, and things like that. So, like I said, you can do one of two things with this. You can keep everything at clerk.com, or you could save user instances in your own database and then look them up when you get your user ID. The benefit to saving it in your own database is that it's easier to do things like send an email to a user. On the other hand, it's not impossible to send an email to a user that is not in your database. You just new up a new instance of a user with parameters that you're getting back from here. So basically, one benefit of doing this is that you don't have to save a bunch of potentially specific user information on your own servers. You can let Clerk kind of handle that authentication, authorization, scary stuff, and you can kind of just handle the stuff that you want to deal with, which is making a cool app for your users. So anyway, like I said, I would pull all of this into a like a middleware, and then things like this I would extract to a service. So I'd probably have a like a Clerk service that I could use to hit API endpoints for various information. In this case, JWKS or user email information or something like that. So anyway, I might do that in a follow-up video, but this is the basics. At this point, you could kind of run with this and use it in your own application. This is all secure, so you can't decode it without the proper keys. You're not going to be able to get the keys unless you hit the endpoint. You can't hit the endpoint without the private key. So all of this is secure, so you don't have to like worry that somebody could decode the JWT themselves. The other thing is things like these key sets you could save in like a configuration, so like, or a cache. So I could set up a cache, save this response, and then every time the front end hits this back end, I don't have to make an API request. I just pull it from the cache. The reason you want to occasionally like refresh this is that Clerk could occasionally roll these keys, and they don't necessarily tell you when they're going to do that. So you want to have a fresh key set to be able to hit this endpoint and everything. So yeah, all of this is basically stuff that can be done on your own server that doesn't require you to hit Clerk, yet you can still be ensured that you are actually getting a valid JWT token from that has been authorized from Clerk for your application. Anyway, that's that.